Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And it looks like women in animation are in for a rude awakening, and other people in animation too. There are rough times ahead.
Well, they even said they knew it was coming.
They knew it was coming. Look, this should not be a shock. Netflix has been canceling all kinds of shows. Cartoon Network is rumored to possibly be shutting down. It's just a brand now. Who could have foreseen that coming?
I know, right?
Who could have foreseen that coming? HBO Max dumped all kinds of cartoons. Cartoons are not important to these streamers anymore because they cost a lot of money. The audience that generally watches these things doesn't support these things with merchandise sales.
Well, what sucks is, though, the heads of the studios I blame for this, because when we did the pandemic, we had the pandemic going on. I remember we did videos back in like late 2020. I think it was even into 2021. Talking about how they were gonna order a bunch of animation, and I remember even saying at the time and thinking at the time,
yeah,
that's dumb doing it now, because now that it's heading down, people are going back to work, no one's at home, so it would have been good to have that stuff. You know, people could have worked from home when the pandemic was in full swing, but now that it's not, that doesn't make any sense. You're just going to be wasting a lot of money. And then it didn't work, and now everybody in animation is suffering for it, and that was the bad decisions on the studio's part.
Yeah, it was like basing your sales projections for the entire year off of Christmas shopping season,
right?
And never planning for January,
right? And that's what it was. And I remember thinking, this is really dumb to do this now. I mean, it made sense like months ago, but now it doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
So let's talk about this, because a lot of people who want to work in animation are going to be in for a very, very rude awakening. And I'm sorry, I am. You were lied to. Welcome to Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the way it works.
Welcome to life.
Welcome to life. So before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. If you do, you'll get a woohoo.
Woohoo!
This is coming from the Hollywood Reporter. Women in Animation president, Margaret Dean. She was in charge of High Guardian Spice. By the way.
Yes, well, a lot of these women, were involved in projects that ruin franchises, and then, that could be another reason why studios don't, want to hire you.
I think
some of them were probably activists and pain in the asses too.
Yeah, I think that's 100% it. I think what happened was they greenlit a bunch of shows that were basically disguised as kids shows, but actually for young adults, and they weren't watched. I mean, these shows weren't watched. If they were watched and they were selling merchandise, you'd still be seeing like Adventure Time is still getting stuff made. They have a role-playing game coming out, board game coming out for Adventure Time. But most of these shows, they came and went on Netflix and nobody knew they existed.
Yeah.
They got dumped off of HBO Max. Quality is not an issue. People are like, but it was a good show. I'm like, it doesn't matter if it's good.
I think the High Guardian Spice is a good example. I think what happened there, and I think that's why they're not hiring these people, is because they went for this, we got to have diversity and inclusion, and they put all this effort into this and made this big deal about it. And then when they pitched it, their trailer was like a Kickstarter commercial for diversity and inclusion and showed very little of the show. I mean, the show came out and it was okay. It wasn't terrible. We reviewed it before. It wasn't a terrible show. But the fact is, it actually, we know, caused other people that were diverse women to not get picked up because they were afraid to go with another project after the backlash for that one. So it could be that part of the reason, women in animation are facing rough roads ahead isn't just because of the 30% decline in the animation industry. It could be because there was a lot of shitty, bad choices made, and a lot of people out there, more about agenda than they were about the projects, and it showed. And the response to the projects wasn't as great as they hoped because of it.
They used Crunchyroll subscriber money, telling Crunchyroll subscribers they were going to give it to the studios in Japan. They used the subscriber money to bankroll High Guardian Spice, and then they ran it on Crunchyroll. At the very end, right before they got sold off, they dumped it. And that was actually the first thing they greenlit. And that effectively killed Crunchyroll Originals because people are like, this is not anime.
And if it goes around that you're difficult, if you're like a person that's really, really pushy, really agenda driven, and I'm not saying all these women are, but I know a lot of the women are, they're not going to want to work with you. Plus they might go overseas because people over there just, just get the work done and just do a good job. And they're not about, women this, women that, and activism this and that, you know what I mean? They just do the job and are compliant.
So she
women should be compliant. No, that's not what I'm saying, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, right?
No, that's not going to happen here.
You heard it from her mouth, not mine.
You were thinking it. I just said it.
So this is, oh my God, that's the Ryan's World kid. He's like 42 now.
He's 42. 42.
He looks very good for 42.
And now he's doing live action animation. Oh, whatever.
This is not shocking. Women in animation, from my understanding, is they've been behind the scenes of a lot of the decisions, the questionable decisions at Cartoon Network and Netflix, and a lot of these Tumblr style cartoons that have appeared. And people are like, nobody asked for this. Where did this come from? You probably can thank Margaret Dean and women in animation.
The art's subpar. I'm sorry, but it is.
What? I mean,
I don't care. I said
come on. This is amazing. Well, actually, this one's supposed to be pretty good. And this was pretty good. But yeah. But again, they were hiring people based on checkboxes, based on ratios, quotas.
Oh, even She-Ra. It's all women writers' room.
Yeah.
And it was all like, light-skinned white women.
Yes, I know, right? So diverse. So in a letter sent to members on Monday, it was called, Animating Resilience, Surviving and Thriving in an Uncertain Industry. WIA President Marge Dean noted that she has heard estimates that suggest as much as 30% of the LA animation workforce is unemployed. We saw drastic cuts in projects from all the major streamers long before the writers and actors went on strike.
That's true.
We've been talking about that. Productions were abruptly ended, even when they were nearly or completely finished.
Again, true.
Whole animation divisions were eradicated. This past year at Netflix Animation, for instance, there were layoffs. It reorganized its management and canceled projects, including Meghan Markle's Pearl.
Oh, nothing of value was lost.
Dean acknowledged that animation has had its ups and downs, but the impact of streamers and other new players in the business made the most recent high tumultuous, as it has changed the way the business runs. They said the explosion of production was so disproportionately large, there was no way that it wouldn't crash. So they basically had too much content and it was going to blow up. It was going to crash.
Because they greenlit too much stuff, basing it on the pandemic, which they shouldn't have done.
Yeah, she warned that simultaneously there's been an attack at all levels of government on diversity, equity, and inclusion work.
Because they get rid of the DEI officers.
Oh my God, that's not why. That's not why they're canceling this shit.
No, there might be why. Because again, a lot of these women in this group, which we've seen in past experience, including Dean herself, have been out there like yelling about diversity, inclusion, and all that stuff. And they literally are pitching a show based on that instead of the quality of the show. I mean, you can have a good show that happens to be diverse and inclusive, but that was their main fucking selling point. And that's what they kept pushing. And I remember different people were coming to us talking about how ridiculous it was being. They kept saying diversity and inclusion, but they were diverse and they weren't being included, because it was the right type of people who you screamed the most. Yeah. So maybe everybody just turn their back on you because they find you fucking annoying. And they're tired of having to walk on eggshells when they can just go hire other people who probably are women, who probably are diverse, who, might be from other countries, but they get the shit done and don't scream about stuff constantly. That's my job.
How much did they spend on shows like this? Like, I can't speak to its quality, right? But I'm just saying there was a very limited audience for Dead End Paranormal Park. It was basically canceled right out of the gate. Lots of other shows like this that appealed to young adults. Again, these are not shows for children per se, but they appealed to young adults, and very few kids watched them, and most of them never made it even a dent in the streaming numbers.
No. Some of them did, but most didn't.
Most of them didn't. The ones that did, anime, or shows based on video game titles, Arcane, did really well. So she said we must be diligent in protecting these efforts and continue to require all employers to value DEI as central to our collective success. Groups like ours are more important than ever. We continue to beat the drum, reminding everyone that a diverse and inclusive workforce benefits everyone and is a key to the survival of creativity and storytelling. You have to hire their people.
Because you can't tell stories that, are diverse unless they're there to do it.
They said even once the agreements with the strikes in Hollywood, they said that, Dean said, we haven't hit bottom yet. Soon we'll see more shows being greenlit, more jobs opening up in a healthier work environment, but it's going to take a while to ramp up production again. Because again, with animation, it takes years.
Yeah, it does.
You can't just turn it back on. And you could greenlight a show tomorrow. It could be 3 to 4 years until it actually, hits the airwaves. Well, do we do airwaves? You know what I'm saying? The Wi-Fi, until it hits the Wi-Fi. It's not looking good. I mean, just as a final thought here, we didn't cover this separately, but Cartoon Network closed down its building. So just to show you how important Cartoon Network is to Warner Brothers at this point, they're no longer renting their building, the building they've been in for years. They said everybody was moved out by August 1st. I've seen this picture floating around. I mean, this was kind of an iconic building.
But here's the thing, though. That's normal. Like, if a company buys you, I mean, I'm surprised they got to stay there as long as they did. And they're trying to cut costs, and there's room in their building. Why would they need two?
Yeah, that's just it. But it feels like Cartoon Network, even to Warner Brothers, is just going to be a brand that they slap on cartoon shows. I mean, I could see them outsourcing cartoon shows and then just being like, yeah, this is a Cartoon Network thing. But we didn't hire anybody from LA to work on it. We're just calling it Cartoon Network or whatever. It's over. That scene that has been, or this demographic that has been producing animated content, mostly been in charge of animation coming out of LA for the last decade. It's collapsing. It's over. It's over. And really, just like everything else, all it took was for the money to run out. Now, what happens next? I think more anime. I think more, you want to talk about diversity. I think there is an opportunity for people who work or want to work in animation, who live outside of LA, to actually produce their own stuff outside of that system, which I think is a good benefit, of this. But I think the kind of the stranglehold that women in animation have had on that scene is definitely over.
I don't know. We'll see.
We will see. So we're going to wrap it up.
Yep.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.
Help support the channel. Go to thereef.support and get early access to podcasts, videos, and other content. That's thereef.support.